mind if I sing this song? It's my favorite.
It would be a pleasure, Joy.
Thank you so much. If I had a talking picture of you, we would talk the whole thing over, be sure.
I would be about 4 or 5 years old, and my parents, the Asquiths, who broadcast from 1YA the first week it opened, for 8 solid years, sang for charity during the Depression years. And I hated it because as a little girl I had to have a sleep in the afternoon when all my friends were outside playing, and then I used to go with Mummy and Daddy because there were no babysitters in those days, and my mother taught me a little song so that I could perform too. And then I found that I enjoyed it. Eventually I got to the stage, well, particularly when I was very little, because they'd say, oh, the dear little girl, you know. And but I enjoyed the singing. And then, of course, when I was doing ballet, I enjoyed the dancing. I'd do a little song and do a little dance afterwards. I didn't take acting lessons or singing lessons. My mother had been in professional theatre in London, and she knew right from wrong. And then going to ballet, I learnt footwork, and that's how I more or less started. I was living in Wellington when I was crowned Miss New Zealand. It was exciting, and I was tense, but I think it ended up with about 3 girls. You just wore a bathing suit and swimsuit, and that was it. It wasn't the terrific pageant that it is now. I mean, we didn't really have to do anything except just pose, you know, that was, or walk around the front of the stage. Then they chose me, so I felt very thrilled about that. And of course on Monday morning's paper, it was all in the papers, and so I went back to school, you see, and I came across my favourite mistress, and I said, "Good morning, Miss Johnson." She looked at me and she said, "Good morning, Miss New Zealand." Then, for the school holidays, I was sports queen, and was raising patriotic funds for the Patriotic Society. Every queen that there was, they had a committee. They worked very hard, but then we needed to, because all our boys were overseas fighting for us.
Ah, chérie, my love for you is très, très fort. Which my French was good enough, I'd tell you so much more.
Well, I was still at school, I think, when I met my husband. I didn't know him then, but then for the school holidays, I was shaking the box, you know, in Queen Street, how you do, to get as much money as you can. And he was with his boyfriend in their lunch hour. And he looked at Ron and he said, "See that girl over there?" And Ron said, "Yes." "You mean the sports queen?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I'm going to marry her." He said, "Ha, ha, ha, you'd be joking." But he did.
Mais j'espère that you compris all the little things you mean to me. Darling, je vous aime beaucoup. I love you so. I do love you.
I suppose when I was very young, I might have wanted to go to Hollywood. But no, I was very fortunate in as much that I was in shows locally, and we weren't millionaires that I could suddenly pick up my bags and take off to London or to New York. So I was very happy with what I was doing locally, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Particularly when, as I say, Williamson's asked me to play leading lady for them. I mean, they were an international company, J.C. Williamson.
I can never close a sleepy eye.
Of course, when I came in, I was local, and the Australians were a little bit looking down their nose, who is this amateur turned professional sort of thing, you know. And I must say that my leading man, I think it was a little bit of skullduggery at the back of the theatre, more or less didn't work to me. He was working to the audience all the time, and particularly, you know, when you have a leading man and a leading lady, they should work together, you know, and a love story. So I put up with it for a little while, and then I thought, oh no, I don't have to do this. So when he didn't particularly sing, I went out and sang to the audience. My word, he came up beside me and he played to me after that. But I think they thought because I was an amateur that I didn't know theatre very well, but having had a mother in the profession, you learn a lot. And but then after that, they couldn't have been nicer. And then they asked me, would I go across to Sydney and play the role in Sydney? And my husband said, yes. This is how wonderful he was, or is. He said, I'll give up my job and come over with you and I'll manage you. Well, he had a very, very good job. And I gave it a lot of thought, and I thought, well, no, I wanted children, and the theatre is no place to bring up children, not when you're touring and so forth. And I didn't, when I had my children, I didn't want to leave them for 6 weeks or 8 months at a time, sort of thing. So I thought, no. So I turned them down. But the thought has often been there, well, what would it have been like, you know, how would I... Because one of my ambitions, I'd have loved to have sung a lead in a London theatre. That was the one thing I would have loved to have done. But you can't do everything in this world, and I was lucky to play the lead in my own country, so that was it. As I say, we've had a wonderful marriage. I couldn't have been married to anyone nicer, and I was fortunate enough. Good Lord gave me 2 beautiful children, a son and a daughter, and so I really feel I've been very lucky indeed.
Speak to me of love and whisper these words to me.